And president of the local collective,
Hello.
and Holly Rowden, partner and executive producer at O'Fradel Films.
Hello.
Thank you all for joining us. Okay, so just to launch right into it, I wanted to ask right off the bat, one or two pieces that each of you loved from this year's jury panel and why you loved them. I know that we discussed beforehand some favorites, so if somebody wants to take lead.
I
Yeah,
can go
hard to do
first.
that. Great.
I thought there was a lot of great work. We had a lot of fun judging for sure. There was two that I really loved in their simplicity. One was the Adidas Goals Everywhere campaign. I thought it was super simple, very insightful to the audience and the brand, and really well executed. And another was a campaign for organization Snood and Pels, which was really interesting. It was about putting a little bit more rigor on crossbreeding of dogs and the way that they executed it. Really high craft, really interesting kind of perspective. And I think we all feel this way when you see a piece of print that you just instantly get. It's always great.
Yeah, those were so great. Speaking of
Yeah.
dog, I really loved the Rover campaign that I think was called To My Human. And everything, it was in the craft cut for animation, but it was a simple animation style, but one that just fit the product and service so well, and they just executed it so sweetly, and the insights were there. Everything came from the dog's point of view. I don't even have a dog, but it made me want one so that I could use Rover. It was really, really sweet. And then the other one I loved was Annoying Ads by Samsung. Really hyping up the fact that you can like remove anything with their phones in a photo. So they actually like put these annoying ads in places where you wouldn't want them, just to prove the point of the product, which I thought was really, really smart and a really attention getting fun way to do it.
Yeah, I guess I can jump in as well and say definitely agree on the rover front. That was also one of my favorites. I'll just again because the animation was so simple, but it just fit the idea. And then I know there was another spot that caused a lot of discussion in our group which was the equal payday, it pays to have a dick. And I'm so sorry if the exact wording on that campaign is not right, Emma. I'm sure you can correct me, but it was just funny because in it starts off kind of like a traditional commercial, I guess, and then halfway through they made this choice to have like the green screen people actually appear in the commercial, which at first we're like, is that really what they should have done? But I think just like inherently the fact that it caused us to have so much discussion was like shows that it was a very interesting choice to make, and obviously very, very memorable on all our fronts. And then I also really wanted to mention the A Gal spot as one of my favorites as well, not just because it's a Canadian piece, but also I know that just like I saw the amount of resources that they had to work with to do that spot, and you can just tell that like from the cast to the crew to like all of the creative choices, it really was like people put a lot of work and passion into that project. So I just thought they did such a good job with the execution, and you can tell they all really, really cared about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so much good work. The funny one on the dicks was like I just like recalling that moment in the jury room and just like laughing and the levity that it brought, and it was just so nice to see like I don't know, it's just like fun work that you're just like, oh, this is real, and it was really great piece, and we lots of discussion about the green screen men, which was interesting in of itself. Yeah, it was really like there's so much work. This was my first jury, so it was my first time going through that experience of the day and all the cases that you see, and it was really cool talking to other people about it in a way that isn't like your agency and how you're gonna sell the work to clients, but just like, okay, what do we think of this work? And you don't have the same attachment to it or deep knowledge of how it got there and all the things that didn't go the way that you wanted them to or did, and that's why it is. So I really enjoyed that with obviously everyone here and on the jury. Yeah, everyone's touched on like a couple of the pieces of work that were really good. I would say two also that kind of bubbled up, and again, as I was reviewing the short list, were the Sandy Hook Promise Just Joking one. it's so poignant, right? It just like gets you right there. They take the message all the way through, and really, really landed at the end. And it like elicits this visceral reaction in you, and it stays with you, and you think about it. And I think so it really landed for me. And then the other one actually that I was talking about too was Code My Crown by Dove. And I love that piece because it's so consistent with their brand message. It wasn't just, oh, let's do something to do something, but it was just like at the core of their brand, what they're all about. And talk about resources, like heavy lift too, right? To go in and with all those developers and coding and whatnot. So it wasn't they didn't take the easy route on that, which again would be consistent with Dove and everything they stand for. So those are some of the ones that kind of stuck with me at the end of the day and the week since we judged.
Amazing. I'm glad it's a really diverse kind of spread of things that stood out to you guys. You having said, Marie, that this was your first jury session or being a juror, I wanted to ask, are there judging principles that you guys apply to the work as a whole, like right from the beginning, or any that are specific to category? Maybe I'll make it easier by pointing questions to people. If Alexis, you had any thoughts?
Yeah, I think, we always try and set a really high bar. Like you want the work to be at that world-class level and to sit amongst all the other shows that, look at the same work. So I think we all set a really high bar, and it was cool to see everyone's takes on what world-class meant. And I think we had some really, really smart and talented women in the room, and it was everyone, I felt like there was a lot of agreement throughout the day, but I think, yeah, going in and knowing that like we're setting a really high bar was important to us.
Amazing. And Caitlin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I totally echo what Alexis said. I think that, I think Stephanie actually said it during the day, like, is it insightful? Is it crafted really high? And is it done in a different way? There was certainly lots of work that, it was good, and we would have all definitely been proud to have created it. Like that's a part of our job too. But if you're going to really kind of award in an award show, it's at a higher level. And I think it was a fantastic discussion and so thoughtful. I really appreciated how, it's a lot of work to do judging. You have to give a full day of, work, and everyone's crazy, and we work in a crazy industry, but everyone was really mindful of how much passion these agencies and these teams from all over the world are fighting to put their work out into the world and then put it into an award show and have it judged. I just thought it was really, no one rushed anything. It was really nice. It was great discussion from everybody.
Great. And Marie, your perspective from doing this for the first time?
I loved it. It was great. I want more now. So yeah, I mean, I guess first and foremost, I have to like shout out Caitlin. Caitlin like is why I was part of this. Like she sought me out and I didn't even think that this would be a place for not only myself, but just an account person. Like, what's an account person doing on this jury? So thank you, Caitlin, for that. And also the jury was so diverse from backgrounds of experience and roles. We had production, we had accounts, we had creative. And I think was really interesting to be part of a discussion where you're getting it from all sides, and people really respecting different elements of the craft or the execution of the idea. So I really enjoyed hearing those voices all around the table as we discussed work. And and I just say the other part that I really enjoyed about it was the global nature of the work. It's a global show, so in Canada, you see a lot of headlines, of course, for local work, so you're more familiar with the work and the agencies connected to those brands. But then all of a sudden to be judging work from like Jordan and Germany, a lot of Germany and Mexico, it was really fun just to see just what brands are doing in other countries around the world.
Great. And Holly?
Yeah, I think one thing, I guess, maybe from like the filmmaking side of me that I always look for in these things is just like cohesion with the idea and like the storytelling, like all elements of it pointing towards the idea and all making sense. And it's not necessarily like the grandest idea that's the best idea. I think like across the board, there were so many good ideas that were of different like levels, if you want to call it that. But yeah, just like cohesion and everything making sense together.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Now that we know what you all went in looking for, and maybe we'll just preserve this speaking order unless anybody feels really excited about something. What were some themes or trends, if any, that you observed amongst the entire body of work?
It's funny. I do feel like in years past, there will be really strong themes, like everything will be, public service. That's the stuff that really hits are really like heavy. But I actually felt like there was a lot of stuff that was like a lot lighter this year. It felt like people were taking big swings, whether we liked it or not. There was some stuff that they just went for it. And I think you saw us gravitate to a lot of the things that felt true. And, sometimes that meant, like, for example, when I brought up Rover earlier, like it had such a strong insight. It was written so smartly, it was crafted really well, but it was really light and it was just so cute. And I think there was a lot of that type of work this year that just felt maybe a little more playful.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. There was a levity to a lot of the work, which was really nice. I think especially with what we've all gone through the last few years, there's been a lot of heavy work that's come out of it. And it's nice, we had a lot of moments where we were like belly laughing, kind of, talking about this work and how silly it was. It was insightful and highly, highly crafted, but it made us laugh. And I think that's really, really nice to see it coming back. It's hard to do funny really well, and there was a lot of work in there that was great and lighter than years past for sure.
Yeah, I would echo what's been said. I don't need to repeat it. I would say maybe it was just in the grouping of work that we reviewed on the day. There was, I don't want to call it a trend because maybe it was just like 3 cases and I'm collecting it now and calling it a trend. But there was a few that were hitting on the notion of, I want to say like girl/woman in sports, almost like what that can open or like through the decades and advancements that have been made. So I don't want to say that was a trend. It might have just been in the selection of work that we got, but I think there was a couple things there, and we've seen it more broadly on the work that's being shortlisted in other award shows as well. So, but other than that, I echo everything that Caitlin and Alexis said.
Same here. I don't have a lot to add to that, other than it was amazing to laugh with you guys. And yeah, there was a lot of really funny work. Even if it was like for good or like really serious subject matter, it was pretty funny.
That's fair. Great. Okay. To speak to the breadth of Canadian work, I know you guys mentioned a couple of Canadian pieces that made it into your favorites. And just to kind of remind everybody, some of the Canadian entrants had been from Humanity and Inclusion, from COSET Toronto, FCB Canada, No Fixed Address Toronto, Rethink Toronto, and Zulu Alpha Kilo Toronto. So were there any others amongst them that stood out to you guys?
I think we actually only saw the one, didn't we, Holly?
We only saw the cassette one. That was
Yeah,
the only one.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and the burp one from
Oh yeah, that was
yeah,
really
Broken Heart
sweet
Love
from
Affair.
Broken
Yeah.
Heart Love Affair.
Oh yeah, that burp spot's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, in that case, I was gonna say, kind of looking at everything through a Canadian lens, when you think of work produced in Canada, what qualities allow it to compete on the world stage? And if they're missing, what are the missing qualities?
I mean, I think we talk about this a lot from a Canadian perspective, but I think the fact that we can do so much with the budgets we have, I think the talent is like outrageous here and just really outshines like I guess our population. Like we're such a small country, but we really do such big things. I think you see it in the craft of the work we just talked about, the burp spot, the egal spot. I think, yeah, everything's just, we try harder. I don't know. We try really hard and it seems like we push, beyond what you would expect our capabilities to be. And that's why you're seeing so much of amazing Canadian work on the global stage right now.
Yeah, I think like Mary said, we see headlines all the time for the work that's coming out of this market. And although we didn't judge a ton of it in our grouping, I know that we could all feel that our work stood among everything that we saw. The work that's coming out of Canada right now is insane in the last few years. It's, there's so many agencies producing so much great work. And I think Canadians just have a really entrepreneurial spirit. I think we work really hard. I think we care. And I think we're a small community. I think like the cool thing is, we sat on this jury panel with some incredible talent and everyone was so generous with their thoughts and adding to compliments and it was just I just think we're a small community that shares with each other, celebrates each other, and wants everyone in Canada to succeed. So that's always a really nice feeling. And the work, it can stand on its own. Like the work's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And it does stand on its own, right? Like we were just recalling, you're like, oh my God, yeah, burp. That was done by Broken Heart. That was an amazing spot. And yeah, to echo, we're ambitious. I think that the work is really smart that comes out of this country because it's based in like a human truth, not necessarily like this is true of only this set of people who think this type of way. And of course, I think that ambition translates into like outperforming the media plan because our media plans are only as big as they can be given the population. But you tend to see Canadian work on global brands get picked up around the world just because it's so resonant with what we're saying about the brand and the human truth behind it that it tends to expand beyond borders. And at Rethink specifically, we don't think of ourselves as a Canadian agency. We think of ourselves as a global agency based in many cities, but predominantly Canadian cities. And I think if you were to ask many of the creatives in Canada, I think they would maybe think of themselves the same way, which again helps us punch way above our weight on the global stage.
Yeah, and on the production side, I know for sure, like we have directors that are based all around the world, and they always love receiving boards from us because the ideas are always so creative. It's true what Alexa says. Everyone is so like ambitious here, and they really want to make the most of like absolutely push the budget to the max, which is amazing because we get to make amazing work. Yeah, and like the references that we receive from agencies from like cinematography to production design is always super high level and really, cinematic. And it's everyone wants to make art at the end of the day, which it seems, which is amazing.
I love to hear it. I feel proud. Okay, zooming back out, we had spoken about trends, but were there any techniques or new strategies that really impressed you?
I feel like I should stop going first because then I take everything. I feel like Holly, you might have some good trends because it was specific to production stuff.
Um, like I guess, yeah, I just thought I like an example of one was the again, I'm so terrible with the campaign names, but the one that was like about video game safety where they were like doing the camera like high above as essentially it started as a TikTok trend, and I noticed that a little bit in like across the board in some of the campaigns, but like that specifically started as a TikTok trend, so I just thought that was interesting. But definitely on the cinematography side, like I noticed a lot of the work was really like pushing the boundary of like just like looking amazing. Sorry, that's not extremely articulate,
That's
but
a good point though,
everything
Holly.
looks great.
I do
Yeah.
feel like a lot of, maybe not a lot of the work, but like TikTok is definitely like a mining place for like fun ideas, trends. Like you can see that people are kind of starting there, which is really interesting. And I think kind of new
Yeah.
this.
I thought it was kind of cool that Alexis, you kind of touched on this before, like in some years past, everyone uses the same color grade or everyone starts to use the same camera movement. Like so there's just it all like, and this year it felt so different. Like when we were judging the animation styles, they were so different. There were so many different pieces. When we judged cinematography, again, like so different styles. So it was kind of neat to see the breadth, I think, of craft instead of like this is just a trend and what everyone's jumping on. It like people seem to be bringing in really unique perspectives, which I thought that was very fun.
Yeah, I'll echo that. And also what Holly said, I was just thinking of like that McDonald's one that played into was it We McDonald's or what
Yeah,
was
the gaming one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then And then the Mexico, I think it was Movie Star. I feel bad that I'm mixing things up now with all the brands, like what Holly was talking about with the gamer. She also does a really good like what is it, NPC impersonation. So yeah, it's cool to see that brands are not only paying attention to maybe more niche communities, but like seeing the potential in them and playing with them with their people, and it came to life in some really cool campaigns from all over the world.
Okay, great. I forgot, Holly, that you had spoken first that time. Okay, well, speaking of like digital concepts, tech feels like an opportune topic. Did AI play any role in the conversation that you had? And if so, to what extent?
I don't know if we saw a ton of AI work.
Not really.
Mm.
No,
Like,
there was
Even with AI, I feel like it's the craft is coming into it. Like it's coming from AI. We talked a little bit about that. Like it's coming from AI studios. Like it's not what was first happening with like hacking with AI. Like that didn't exist. I don't think. Am I remembering wrong?
no,
No.
yeah, I don't recall a ton of AI in the work that we saw. Now I'm like trying to scroll through and see if there was.
Yeah. I don't recall either. And I guess, yeah, I don't recall it even in some of the notes. So maybe we missed that one.
Well, does that surprise you at all when you say like there was maybe a bit more of a wave of this in terms of hacking before?
Yeah, it might have just been in what we saw. We did that one, there was the Coke AI studio.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was like the only one
We didn't
really.
like that.
I think you'll see it. I'm sure maybe it's in the show, it's just not in the stuff we saw, but yeah.
But technology certainly, like we saw quite a few, like the Dove campaign and the campaign from Mexico, the McDonald's one. There's certainly like a technology gaming perspective. I think you're just seeing it become more naturally ingrained the same way filming a TV commercial is naturally ingrained. Do you know what I mean? It's less like it's AI, so everyone pay attention to us. Like it's becoming a production technique, I feel, but we certainly saw a lot of cool gaming perspectives that brands were doing.
Okay,
I
interesting.
also forgot there was that one with the people and they were doing the interview and it was like aging their faces. So it was
yeah.
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
forget the brand for that one, but yeah. So it's like it again, like you said, Caitlin, it's like a tool right now, but I think we'll see it explode and or as people find new ways to use it for sure.
yeah. I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think we're just honing it in a different way. Like we're
Hmm.
starting to use it probably the way it needs to be used, which is kind of cool.
Okay, that makes sense. I wanted to talk about the work for good category because that's something that really stood out to me. And when you consider campaigns for that category, what attributes are most important to you?
Should I start again or does someone else want to start?
Go for
I,
it.
I can start if we want to switch it
Okay.
up, but I'll try to be quick. I think the same attributes for all work should be applied. I know we have a system of evaluating that at Rethink, and I would apply that to all of the work. But I think what really, and just again, using the burp example for World Vision that Broken Heart did, what popped for me beyond everything, simplicity was clear. It was just fresh. I liked how it was a fresh take on something that we've seen a lot before, and then that just makes you sit up and take notice for it. So my answer would be I appreciate the freshness and simplicity of that work.
Yeah, I think with work for good, you generally have a really strong problem to solve. And I think that's why you see such amazing work produced for categories like that, because it's such a clear enemy you're up against. And I think what really, for me, when I'm judging categories like that, it's like, I really want to be moved. So you could make it as beautiful or as, maybe the cinematography is really great, but if it doesn't move you, I think, it's not going to go through to that next level.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be one of the most competitive categories, I think, now. Like, there's so much need, and I think it's amazing that our community does some of its best work for need. I think that's always an incredible thing. But a side effect of that, I think, you know, the burp example from Canada, it's really one of the best examples in the category, which I'm thrilled about because it brought a new perspective. It brought a new tone. It moved you in a way that it made you, you know, it filled up your soul a little bit when you were watching it. And I think it's not just enough anymore to have a really, you know, melancholy story that's sad to watch. That doesn't, like Alexa said, it doesn't move you the same way that maybe it used to. And if we really want to do good and we want that work to work, I think that, you know, more and more of that category has to be bold and consider new perspectives of how to tell those stories.
Yeah, and I think for that category specifically, I'm just trying to remind myself of exactly what was in that one. But I think there was some discussion within the group as well about just like the impact and not necessarily like who had the most views or anything like that, but just like the amount of effort that went into making the biggest impact as part of something that's baked into the campaign. I think that was something we talked a bit about.
Yeah, because we talked about that French campaign with the tattoos, and we were
Yes.
discussing a
Yeah.
little bit about like the actual execution of it. And I forget who it was, but they were like, I am a fan of laws changing though. And they did change a law. So the impact part
Yes.
definitely part of the discussion.
Yeah.
On that note, what was the level of authenticity that you observed from brands in this category?
I mean, I think it was pretty high.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like remember the 40 years one of fighting AIDS?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
one felt so, it was so beautiful and it was a nice, you know, really nice insight, but it felt really authentic to that story.
Yeah, I don't think there was many that we sort of didn't feel were authentic. I think it was a very real, like truthful category.
Okay, beautiful. I think this will be our last question then, but are there any qualities that immediate disqualify or detract from a piece of work in any of the categories?
I think when they're like when you know they're lying or suspect, I guess, like when it's just kind of over the top and it just like the impact that they're suggesting maybe totally outweighs what the output was. That's usually a turnoff for me, I think. I don't know, anyone else?
I think it has to be everything in an award show has to come back to the idea. So, you know, I think there was if your results are because you gave out something for free, that's not results because of the idea. And I think that's something that we talked a little bit about. Like this is the highest caliber of work in the world. So like I said before, there was lots of stuff in there that I would have been proud to do. I would have, you know, bragged about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's original, highly crafted, and so smart that when you watch it, you go, oh, I wish I would have done that. I think that's always got to be a part of the conversation in an award show.
Yeah, I would
Agreed.
echo what you two said. I will say that I don't think there was a single campaign that we dismissed. I think we pretty much discussed every single piece that we saw. In my case, I would say like there was like a very small number that were a little bit tone deaf. So that was maybe just something where it was like, oh, we didn't talk much about it, but yeah, we did discuss pretty much everything.
Okay, perfect. Did you want to add?
No, I just said I agree with everything.
Okay, beautiful, unanimous. I think that's all we have time for then, but I just want to say thank you again to all of you for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us.
This is fun.
Nice to see everybody again.
Yeah, you
Yes,
too.
very nice.